Imagine a civilization that built 25,000 miles of paved roads across the most rugged mountain range on Earth, all without the use of the wheel, iron, or a written alphabet. Imagine a people who could freeze dry food, perform successful brain surgery, and build massive stone fortresses where the blocks fit together so perfectly that you couldn't slip a razor blade between them. This wasn't a myth. This was the Inca Empire, the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Known to its people as Tahuantinsuyu, or the Land of the Four Quarters, it was a sprawling mountaintop superpower that defied the limits of geography. Today, we're climbing into the peaks of the Andes to discover who the Inca were, how they mastered the vertical world, and the incredible legacy they left behind. The Inca rise was meteoric. While their culture began to take shape around 1200 AD in the valley of Cusco, they didn't become a true empire until 1438, under the leadership of the visionary ruler Pachacuti. In less than a century, they exploded across South America. At its peak, the Inca Empire was a narrow, 2,500-mile-long strip that hugged the Andes Mountains. It stretched from modern-day southern Colombia through Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, and deep into Chile and northern Argentina. This was an empire of extremes. Within its borders, you had some of the driest deserts on Earth, the highest navigable lakes, and peaks reaching over 20,000 feet. To rule such a landscape, the Inca had to become the greatest engineers of the ancient world. The Inca weren't just warriors, they were master administrators. At its height, the empire ruled over 10 to 12 million people from dozens of different ethnic groups. They maintained order through a combination of military might and a unique social welfare system. To keep the four quarters connected, the Inca built the Chapak Ñan, a massive road network that covered over 25,000 miles. These weren't just dirt paths, they were paved with stone, equipped with drainage systems, and featured terrifying suspension bridges made of woven grass that spanned deep mountain chasms. Along these roads, a relay system of professional runners called chasqui could carry messages or fresh fish from the coast to the emperor in Cusco at a rate of 150 miles a day, faster than the Roman postal service. The Inca were the world's premier stonemasons. In places like Machu Picchu and the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, they used ashlar masonry. They shaped massive stones to lock together in complex jigsaws without any mortar. Because the Andes are an earthquake-prone region, these buildings were seismic-proof. During a tremor, the stones would dance and settle back into place, whereas colonial Spanish buildings would simply crumble. The Inca had no money and no markets. Instead, they operated on the meter system, a form of mandatory public service. In exchange for their labor on roads or temples, the state provided citizens with food, clothing, and security. It was a massive state-run safety net. If a region suffered a crop failure, the government opened its kulkas, massive stone silos, and distributed food to the hungry. To the Inca, the world was not just a collection of mountains and valleys, it was a living, breathing, sacred landscape. At the center of their spiritual universe was Inti, the sun god. The emperor, known as the Sapa Inca, was believed to be Inti's direct living descendant. This divine connection gave the Sapa Inca absolute authority, but it also placed a massive burden on his shoulders. He was responsible for ensuring the sun continued to rise and the crops continued to grow. The heart of this worship was the Coricancha, or the Golden Enclosure, in Cusco. This temple was the most sacred site in the empire, its walls literally plated in thick sheets of solid gold that reflected the morning sun with a blinding radiance. Inside, the Inca maintained a garden of gold, where life-sized replicas of corn, llamas, and flowers were meticulously crafted out of precious metals. But their spirituality went far beyond gold and temples. The Inca practiced a unique form of ancestor worship. When a Sapa Inca died, he wasn't buried, he was mummified. These royal mummies were treated as if they were still alive. They were dressed in fine textiles, offered food and drink, and even consulted during major political decisions. During the Great Festival of the Sun, the mummies of past rulers were paraded through the streets of Cusco in a spectral procession of the living and the dead. They also revered huacas, sacred places or objects that could be anything from a strangely shaped rock to a mountain peak or a waterfall. The Inca believed that the earth was connected by invisible lines of energy called seques, which radiated out from Cusco like the spokes of a wheel. By placing shrines along these lines, the Inca mapped their religion onto the very geography of the Andes, turning the entire empire into one giant open-air cathedral. This deep spiritual bond with the land explains why they treated the stones they carved with such immense respect, often leaving natural rock formations untouched within their most beautiful buildings. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Inca is that they had no traditional writing system. Instead, they used the quipu, a complex system of knotted, colored strings. For decades, historians thought these were just simple accounting tools for counting llamas or grain. However, new research suggests the quipu was a sophisticated 3D language that used the direction of the knot, the twist of the string, and the color of the thread to record history, census data, and even poetry. The Inca didn't just conquer people, they conquered the climate. Their legacy lives on in every kitchen on the planet today. Enjoying the video? Please support us with a like and comment. The Inca were the masters of the potato. They cultivated over 4,000 varieties of potatoes, adapted for every altitude and soil type. When the Spanish brought the potato back to Europe, it triggered a population explosion, eventually fueling the Industrial Revolution. Every time you eat a fry or a baked potato, you are participating in an Inca agricultural legacy. The Inca invented freeze-drying. They would take potatoes to the high mountain peaks to freeze overnight and then let the sun evaporate the moisture during the day. The result was chuño, a dehydrated potato that could last for a decade. Furthermore, their agricultural terraces, andinas, turned steep mountainsides into productive farmland, a technique still used today to prevent erosion and maximize water usage in mountainous regions. The Inca were surprisingly advanced in medicine. Archaeological evidence shows they successfully performed trepanation, drilling holes in the skull to relieve pressure or treat head wounds. Astonishingly, the survival rate for these surgeries was over 80%, higher than the survival rate for similar surgeries during the American Civil War over 300 years later. They also used the coca leaf as an anesthetic and cinchona bark, which contains quinine, to treat fevers and malaria. The fall of the Inca was a tragedy of timing. In the late 1520s, a devastating civil war broke out between two brothers, Huáscar and Atahualpa, over the throne. The war decimated the population and left the empire exhausted. Precisely as the war ended in 1532, Francisco Pizarro arrived with just 168 Spanish soldiers. Like the Aztecs before them, the Inca were hit by a wave of European diseases, smallpox and measles, that killed millions, including the emperor and his heir, before the Spanish even fired a shot. In a daring ambush in the city of Cajamarca, Pizarro captured Atahualpa. Despite the Inca filling a room once with gold and twice with silver as a ransom, the Spanish executed the emperor, effectively decapitating the most organized state in the Americas. The Inca Empire lasted for a century of glory, but its foundation was so strong that it never truly disappeared. Today, Quechua, the language of the Inca, is spoken by over 8 million people across the Andes. The Inca Trail is one of the most famous treks in the world, and Machu Picchu remains a testament to human ingenuity. The Inca teach us that greatness isn't about the tools you have, but how you use them to overcome your environment. They took the most vertical, inhospitable landscape on Earth and turned it into a garden. They built a society where no one went hungry, and where the stones themselves were taught to resist the Earth's tremors. As we look at the ruins of Cusco or the peaks of the Andes, we see a civilization that lived in harmony with the mountains and the sun. The Inca Empire fell to steel and disease, but in the potatoes we eat, the roads we walk, and the stone walls that still stand, the empire of the sun continues to shine. Enjoyed the video? Please support us by dropping a like and comment. Subscribe to never miss a video.